First, why the right-wing media is targeting Mickey Mouse. In the United States, we're seeing a theme of the midterm elections emerging. It's the way you can see a wave start to form far from shore before it breaks on the beach. The theme, the talking point on the right, is about protecting kids from the dangers of the Walt Disney Company. Really. But Disney is just a stand-in. It's just a symbol for something bigger. A conservative backlash to growing acceptance of gay and transgender people. A conservative fear that traditional beliefs are being trampled on. And there are entire networks that program to this fear, and many politicians that react to it. That's the story here. As this CNN.com reporting says, 3 months into the new year, lawmakers in dozens of states have introduced a slew of bills that could limit the rights of LGBTQ Americans. Some of those bills are framed as parental rights bills. Opponents say they're really actually anti-gay bills, and it's easy to picture this battle continuing right through the midterm elections. But for folks who aren't partisan warriors, this battle is incredibly disheartening. I spoke with a Disney executive who's caught in the middle of it right now, and they said, you know, Disney's brand for decades has been family-friendly and has been gay-friendly, and that hasn't been in conflict. That need not be in conflict. But the media organs that profit from conflict are on a crusade now, working overtime to demonize Disney, claiming the company is indoctrinating and sexualizing children through movies and TV shows. So let's unpack what's going on, because I think this story is going to be with us for at least another 6 months. The main prompt this winter was Florida's Parental Rights and Education Bill, cast by critics as the Don't Say Gay bill. Disney CEO Bob Chapek, you see him there on screen, he tried to sidestep the politics at first by not publicly opposing the bill, although Disney was working privately with lobbyists to try to water it down. Now, Chapek's lack of a public opposition sparked an internal revolt by LGBTQ employees and allies, causing Chapek to apologize and publicly oppose the bill and put Disney's weight behind the bill. And this has snowballed from there, with Florida Governor Ron DeSantis labeling Disney as woke and the right-wing media backing him up and celebrating him. Some activists even called for boycotts of Disney, and now GOP lawmakers and media stars are threatening Disney's copyrights and special self-governing status. In the past week, Fox News has talked about Disney hundreds and hundreds of times, and the mentions really ticked up after the same conservative activists who hyped concerns about critical race theory last year shared a leaked video of Disney executives talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion. It was deemed scandalous that some producers at Disney want to include more LGBTQ characters and storylines in shows. So this is the leaked video. It became this very hot topic in right-wing media. But I want you to remember, Disney is one of the largest companies in the entire world, with nearly 200,000 employees and lots of different opinions. But suddenly, the opinions of these employees on an internal video call were treated like breaking news on Fox and other networks. The overarching narrative was all about left-wing gender ideology going too far, endangering kids. One Fox guest said Disney is, quote, at war with American families. Disney! Look at these banners. Walt Disney has seen his dreams shattered. Disney turns its back on millions of Americans. They think it's their duty to repeal laws. They're talking about the company that Fox owner Rupert Murdoch did business with. Murdoch sold most of his entertainment brands to Disney a few years ago. He may still be one of Disney's biggest shareholders. But like I said, this is bigger than Disney. This is a preview of a midterm election battle. In fact, it's already raging on the right. Is anybody else paying attention to it? Should they? Joining me now to discuss that and more, Charlotte Clymer, writer and LGBTQ activist who previously served as a press secretary for the Human Rights Campaign. Also with me, Natasha Alford, CNN political analyst and VP of digital content at the GRIO, and David Zerwick, CNN media analyst and media studies professor at Goucher College. Welcome to you all. There are a lot of other layers to this. Charlotte, I think we should start with the history of this. There is an ugly history in the United States of portraying gays, lesbians, transgender people as perverts, as predators who are preying on children. And when I see some of the coverage in the last week, seems to me they are just repeating an ugly history.
Good morning, Brian. Yeah, it's exasperating to watch all this go down. I can't believe that it's 2022 and we're still seeing LGBTQ families be framed as predatory or as diversive or I would say as almost perverted. I mean, that seems to be the message to millions of LGBTQ families by the actions of Governor DeSantis right now. And It's heartbreaking to watch because these are families who already struggle to get by day to day in the public square and now have their own government going after them just for existing.
But when you hear the framing on the right, this is just about parents' rights. It's just about parents' rights. What does that get wrong? What's wrong with that?
I think it's insulting to the parents of Florida. Huh? It says to the parents of Florida that we can't talk about LGBTQ families without talking about sex. And it is this very strange need by Governor DeSantis and the Republican Party of Florida to, I would say, sexualize LGBTQ families in a way that you would never see done to non-LGBTQ families. I have so many friends who are LGBTQ parents or parents of LGBTQ children, and they are shocked and exasperated by what's going on right now. They don't feel that they can be in schools or their communities without seeing this kind of backlash from conservative lawmakers, and it's really unfortunate to watch.
Rhetorically, Natasha, do you see this as effective? I don't mean to talk about all this in terms of politics only, but when I'm watching the Fox coverage this week, I'm thinking, they know what they're doing. Like, this is something that's very compelling and scary to their audience.
Well, Brian, you're right. It's brilliant framing because you can't argue with a parent's right to influence their child. Parents care deeply about their children. I'm a parent. I get it. And when you focus on this particular subset, kindergarten through third grade, again, it's very smart and it's strategic because most parents will say, well, yeah, I guess that makes sense. It seems pretty common sense that we wouldn't be talking about sex or sexual orientation. But it sort of hides the real intention behind the bill. And the thing about parental rights framing is that this is not the first time we've seen this in American history. If you frame, critical race theory against parental rights, then people feel, okay, we have a right to be upset. If you think about, go back to segregation. There was a parental rights argument about, well, we shouldn't really be integrating and having our kids, in schools based on race because that will introduce another level of intimacy or relationship. And so when you go at that personal angle, you will actually get a lot of people who miss the sort of bigger picture behind what this bill is really about. And it has a chilling effect. When you say there could be consequences for even touching this issue, people are more likely to not want to touch the issue at all, which marginalizes groups, right? Which takes a family that maybe has two mothers or two fathers, and you say, all right, I can't read that book, or we can't have that conversation in class because I don't want to be penalized as a teacher. So there's a little bit more to the bill than just parents' rights, and I think that's what we have to remember.
There's a lot of code words being used here, it seems like. David Zerwick, let's try a counter-argument, okay? There are many millions of Americans just worried about how far the left is going with gender ideology and gender theory, and they just yearn for a more basic approach to the way life is or was, or maybe never was, but they thought it was that way.
Well, Brian, that's kind of the Make America Great Again argument, that we used to have this wonderful world where everything was taken care of, and now all of these people from the world of cultural studies are bringing all this into and taking our children's education away from us. I mean, Natasha's right. It's a brilliant kind of framing, but it's a very, very ugly, dangerous kind of framing as well. And they have a spokesman in media, in Tucker Carlson, who is very, very good at it. Fox provides the forum for hateful, reckless kinds of speech, couched in different terms. It's never put out that way. They provide a forum for it. That's one thing. They play it, as you showed, over and over and over, so they give this huge forum. But they don't just give a forum. They then use their primetime hosts like Tucker Carlson, Laura Ingraham, to fan the flames of it. And when Tucker Carlson says of Disney, they have a sexual agenda for your 6-year-old children, that's outrageous. And then he goes on and says, that's illegal. That should be illegal in some ways, you would think. It's certainly immoral. But he's basing all of these follows on that fact, which he has no evidence for. Fox is really the cauldron because they then spread this poison through the entire right-wing media ecosystem, and it's big. And now it's political, and with the midterms coming up, this is a juggernaut. but it's constantly, you know, just as was said before, it was used in critical race theory. Oh, they're putting this stuff into your children's head. You know, conservatives used to believe the best thing was to be regulated at the local level. Let the principal of the school board decide what's taught. Now they want it taught by Governor DeSantis, which is a direct contradiction of traditional conservatism as we've known it in this country.
All this just makes me want to visit Disney more. I haven't brought my kids yet, and now I'm going to curious and see what's changed at Disney World, right? Look, on an important note, Fox's coverage did cause the Human Rights Campaign to come out and denounce the network and take away its 100 score for being a positive workplace for gays and lesbians and transgender individuals. Here is part of the statement from the group saying, "We can no longer allow Fox to maintain its score if they're going to continue to deny the existence of transgender people, minimize the violence transgender individuals face, refer to parents of LGBTQ plus youth as perverts, or equate leaders with sex offenders." Charlotte, you used to represent the Human Rights Campaign. Was this important to you to see the group come out and speak out strongly?
Incredibly important. You know, the Human Rights Campaign has tried to give space for companies to slowly progress their workplaces. And I do have friends in the broader Fox Corporation who say that it has been a positive environment for employees specifically in the past in terms of workplace policies, but not culturally. And I'm so glad that HRC is finally coming out and saying that Fox News can no longer get away with spreading this horrific anti-LGBTQ propaganda. We have to stop this demonization of LGBTQ children, of LGBTQ families, and certainly LGBTQ public school teachers who are just trying to do their jobs and are being sexualized by the governor of Florida for no other reason than the electoral benefit that he believes he'll gain by attacking LGBTQ people.
Charlotte, thank you for coming on the program. Natasha and David, thank you both. Please stick around.